Hello and welcome to Flux Motorsports coverage of the Touring Car Championship Season 3 in 2021. It's round 2 and today we head to Brno in the Czech Republic. The 3.4 mile circuit is considerably longer than last week's event at Brands Hatch, but with much longer straights there'll be plenty more opportunities for overtaking and for more close battles. I'm Redders, and joining me this evening in the commentary booth once again is Carling Hicks. And Carling, it was an incredible battle last week up the front where the fight for the lead, the majority of the race didn't even exceed a 1 second gap. Are you expecting more close fights today?
Last week was phenomenal at Brands Hatch, a great opener. As we said, 3 cars topped by this guy on your screen, Pot the Brown, who got his first career win in the Flux Touring Car Championship last week. He had a 3-car battle all the way. As you said, they were never separated by more than a second and a half, couple seconds at the most. And today, though, at Brno, as you said, 3.4 mile circuit. We'll talk about it a little more as we go on. Much more difficult, more straightaways. I anticipate the front 4 or 5 cars to be pretty tight, but I think we will have. I expect to see more 2-car battles than 3 and 4 car battles later on in the race. But as you know, Redders, I think you can. This is touring car racing, and these guys are glued together. The cars, there's very little you can do setup wise to separate them. I just think that we're going to have another race where the whole top half of the field at least might be on top of each other.
It is bumper-to-bumper action in touring cars, and it was headed, as you say, by this man, Pot the Brown, last week, who took the opening win in the season and takes the early lead, a 5-point lead over Spankmeyer in second place. Those two really just could not be separated. Aliu is in third in the championship. He managed to keep himself in the fight. He actually took pole position, but slipped back after a few mistakes every so often, and still held on for a good third place. Do have to give a shout to Little God, who's 4th in the championship, and that's one that I wanted to pick up on as well whilst we're here. Little God finishing a good 4th place, was kind of doing his own race last week, but if anyone has seen how Little God has been in the GT1 championships in the last 2 seasons, he really comes on a lot stronger in the second half of the season. I mean, if you take the fact that he won the GT1 championship last season, he didn't even win a race until the 6th race of the season. So 4th place is a really good way to start a season, especially in a category he's never raced in before.
I think what you'll see is guys that watch the standings throughout the season. When you're up front, you generally keep your eyes on the top 2 or 3 or 4. I think that even if Little God were to slide back to 5th or 6th somewhere, he's the guy that, as you said, is a dark horse. Anybody who follows the Flux Sports Car Championships and watched the GT1 class knows that, you know, he's a late comer, and what'll happen, you got to, as long as he's within range, I think as long as he's within that roundabouts, that 35 point, single race amount range at within the first half of the season, then you have to keep an eye on him, absolutely.
As Pot the Brown goes and sets the first lap of the qualifying session, sets a 2 minutes 8 and sets the benchmark, and look at that, 5 thousandths of a second. The battle is back on between Pot the Brown and Spankmeyer. Look at that, 5 thousandths of a second on their opening lap. I mean, this might be the championship fight that we're looking at this whole season, but Little God jumps straight to the top there on a 2 minute 7.5. So for a guy who actually, well, briefly at the top, and then Aliu just takes it by just 28 thousandths of a second as well. Close battle straight away on these opening laps, but that's kind of one of the things. A lot of the people that I've been hearing talking, building up to this race, they're not so keen on this circuit. I think it's more, as we were talking about before we went live on air, it's much more a motorcycle circuit rather than cars. A lot of people, I think, are struggling with this one, but Little God is one of those who says he actually likes this circuit.
Well, I'd say the Brno circuit has a long history. I mean, they started racing here shortly after the Second World War. It used to be a massive countryside public circuit, just like the Nürburgring. It was at one point 18 miles long. and in those days was generally known as the Masaryk Ring after the first president of the Czech Republic, Jan Masaryk. But by about the night, they started racing the MotoGP, the World Motorcycle Grand Prix here in the 1960s. 1965, I believe, was the first one, and roundabouts the mid 80s and 1987 is when they built the modern circuit that you're seeing right here. And as you said, their big moneymaker for well over 50 years has been the Motorcycle Grand Prix, and so this track has been modified and built mainly for that. It has very tight sweeping turns. Anybody who's familiar with racing in MotoGP simulators knows that circuits that are motorcycle specific tend to have those fast, tight corners, and especially, I think, off camber turns and descending radius turns and all kinds of stuff like that, as well as a bit of a cap on the straightaways. This is actually a long straightaway circuit for the MotoGPs, one of the ones that has a lot of top speed, if I recall correctly. And the tightness of this track combined with the speed, I think that the drivers can compare their knowledge. You can maybe transfer a little bit from a place like a little bit of Monza, perhaps a little Spa. The fact that you have to have long, straightaway speed, you have to be geared for that, but you also have to be ready for those tight turns. And I do think you're going to see a little more variance in the way the guys attack that with their setup this week than you saw at Brands Hatch. We might see a few more guys that are quick in the technicals, a few more guys that are getting 2 or 3 or 4 more miles per hour on the straightaways, but that's what'll make a 45-minute race interesting.
Exactly, it's looking fantastic. We're looking forward to that. I do have to point out we do have a new name in the race this evening. TTV Alienzo, who's actually just pulled into the pits, who's just about to complete his qualifying lap, but just made a little mistake on that final corner and did some damage to his front bonnet, so he's just come into the pits to get that fixed and probably go out again in a few moments. What can we expect from him, do you think?
Well, it's tough to tell. I haven't really seen him run except in a few club races before. He is running, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. Let me get my interface out of the way. He is in the BMW, and that was an interesting subject, I think, looking at the entry list to talk about. With the exception of Green Gaiman, all of the full-time racers are either in a BMW or a Renault. So it's really become a BMW versus Renault championship. Now, did TTV get anything from his fellow BMW drivers? That, I think, will be the key. If he can do that, if he got something from the other guys that gets him up to speed, because we saw some very competitive BMWs last week. But as far as what I'm looking to see, I've seen him run well in a couple of club races. But as far as what he's going to do in a championship race, this is the proving ground.
Exactly. As he sits in the garage at the moment, a couple of drivers still out on track doing laps, including the provisional pole sitter Aliu, who's sitting up top at the moment on a 2-minute 7.3, gets himself just slightly 2 tenths up as he's just coming up now to the final sector, just going up the hill. It's quite a climb. It's very deceptive on the cameras. You're kind of looking to see, okay, it's a little bit of a climb. It's not a little bit of a climb. It's a really big climb. As we actually just reach halfway through our qualifying session. It's a 20-minute qualifying session, followed by a 45-minute race as Aliu crosses the line, and now that doesn't improve his lap time, but he currently sits in provisional pole. Little God, who's just crossing the line now, is in second. Spankmeyer, who's just coming out of the pits at the moment, sits in third place. Our championship leader, Potter Brown, currently in fourth. We have Martin 65 in fifth place. We have Destroyer in sixth. Seventh place is Kov. Carl Stolz is sat in the garage in eighth, just about coming out. Porscheman is in ninth, and we're just waiting on lap times for TTV and also Snarling Bongo, who's currently out on track at the moment. So getting ready for this event. And who's caught your eye at the moment? Obviously, we know Aliu is quick. He's improved that in qualifying last week in Brands Hatch. So are we expecting more of the same this time around, or do you think there might be a bit of a closer challenge? Because Little God's looking quite close at the moment.
I think looking back last week at the race at Brands Hatch, and we saw the front three, the podium drivers of Alu, Spankmeyer, and Pot the Brown, with obviously Little God not far behind them. But among those front three, we talked about it in the broadcast last week, it was a bit of a duel. And as far as I could tell, I thought that Pot the Brown had the best all-around car underneath him. He did have to save some fuel at the end, as he spoke about in the post-race. But you saw a bit. We have a thing we call, especially over, I believe the terms come from stock car racing, when the tires wear relatively quickly and the grip falls off. We call them pockets, and it's pockets where the fuel burn off. As you lose weight, you'll gain some speed. Now, as long as the wear of the tires doesn't outpace that, you'll keep gaining speed throughout the run. Well, in a car that has a lot of variation in that, one of the things that you will often see is pockets of speed. For if it's a 30 lap run, maybe for your fastest section was through 11 through 15, then you got slow from 16 through 18, then all of a sudden you were quick again. You see a bit of that as the fuel burns off and it reacts. It's engineers call it the equalization of the car, and that's what they mean when they say the balancing of the car. And I think that Pot the Brown had the best balanced car, because you saw Alu fluctuate a little bit. He had a few of his problems during the race. I think we saw it looked like the tires went off on him quite a bit, and it really was Pot the Brown that just stayed. He maintained that gap, stayed in second. When he made his move, he made it stick. And I think with that consistency, you've got to say that just one race in, you've got to give him the early advantage.
And of course, there's the whole talk of how much is qualifying on pole position a benefit, especially when you've got that all-round balanced car, because whilst there are points for qualifying, it's just a single point. So it's not the be-all and end-all to try and go for that provisional pole, just as long as you can get yourself in a good grid position. And, Pot the Brown at the moment, currently sat on the second row. That's not bad. It's pretty much where he'd be looking to get.
He was fifth last week, if I recall correctly, in qualifying, and made his way up to win. It may have been fourth, but I believe it was fifth that he qualified. So you're right. I think if you're in the first three rows, I'll quote, Dario Franchitti one time, who they asked him, where he wanted to qualify, and he said, "I really don't care as long as I'm in the fast six," which meant the front three rows. You definitely want to be in the front half of the field in a race like this. Now, if you guys were over in the States with me, and we were in a couple of Indy cars at Indianapolis or Daytona, or even Texas, I have no problem starting from the back of a long enough race and make my way through. I would not want to be at the back of these, just because without guys making major mistakes in front of you, it can be very difficult to get through that many cars and hope to get much more than a top five out of it. But I think if you're in the front three or four rows, if you're within the first half of the field, say, you're very much alive for the win. And that's what Pot the Brown did last week. He started fifth. He gradually moved his way up, and by about 15 minutes into the race, he was right there with the leaders.
Pot the Brown has now moved himself up into third place, got himself within a second of Alu. As you saw on your screen, Alu set another faster lap a little bit earlier on a 2-minute 7.1 now, finds himself 4/10 clear of Little God in second place, with Pot the Brown sat in third. So a lot of other drivers, like I say, obviously the gaps are a bit bigger naturally. We are at a circuit which is 3 times the length of what we had of Brands Hatch last week, and that's another one of the differences that we've got to talk about. Last week it was such a short circuit, lots of corners, hitting you constantly, a lot more straights this time. So how do you work on a setup around a circuit like this, and how different is it compared to what you would have at a circuit like Brands Hatch?
I would compare it, as I always, speaking from my own experience, when I ran any type of sports car, and even a little bit in something resembling a touring car. It's like when we set up for the American Sports Car Championship when we start at Daytona. There's a philosophy at Daytona that many say you got to go for all-out straightaway speed. You know, if you're not pushing that, say, LMP2 up above 190 at the end of the front stretch, then you're losing too much time. But the thing is that over a sprint race, you go into a public lobby and run a 5-lapper, that's fine and dandy. But over a 45-minute event with the accelerated tire wear eating away at those tires, a soft compound, shall we say, you have to think about getting off the corner. That extra power is not worth anything if you can't get off the corner with it, if you can't put the power down to the tires. And a lot of guys will wear off at a track with a lot of high-speed straights like this. They'll wear off the tires that's given them the grip coming out of the corners onto the long straightaways. In other words, where they were hitting 170 when the tires were good, they're not really able to get it back up to 170. So that speed advantage goes away, and then you have a car that's not set to handle the worn out tires. And I think we saw a little bit of that last week, and it's entirely possible at a place like this. I just look for guys that are hitting massive straightaway speed. You're just wondering if it's possible that 30 minutes into the race that they're going to pay for that a little bit.
Exactly. 2.5 minutes to go, just following Aliu at the moment, still going for a faster lap, trying to go for provisional pole, down into sector 2 now, just going down the hill, and he's going round turns 5 and 6, gets through the really tight middle section here of 7, and as it is, it's just long sweeping corners. Like I say, a lot more better for motorcycle racing rather than these cars, but they can still go side to side through these as he gets now through turn 8 and down the hill to turn 9, and then a little bit of a straight before you get to the nice climb uphill once again. Down the hill he goes then into 10. It's another 180 hairpin, but then it's the climb up which really takes it out on these cars. Of course, you're like hoping to get the speed up as quickly as you can, but the uphill is making it a little bit difficult. It's 2 final chicanes into 11 and 12. He gets it round nice and neatly. It takes the tyre barriers on the inside, however. That might have done a little bit of damage to the car as he heads now up the hill to the final chicane. Will it slow him down a little bit more? There's only one chance to take another lap after this through 13 and quite wide there and into 14. Molested by exit line, but now he comes down to the line and he crosses it. Does he improve his time? No, he doesn't. Lilgard is in the pits at the moment in second place, so he's settled for at least second. Potter Brown is coming up to the end of his lap to see if he can improve any further. Some of the tyre debris left by Aliu is still on the circuit at the moment, so the drivers may be having to try and avoid that, which might be causing things. A little slide there through 13 for Potter Brown as he tries to push as hard as he possibly can to improve his lap time. Can he find at least a half a second to take second? He can't, so he'll remain in third place as we're coming down to the final few seconds. Not much time left to go and set another lap time. Destroyer will be next to cross the line. He's currently in 6th place, 1.6 down at the moment off of provisional pole. He's only got to find a 10th to get himself up to 5th place. We'll see how he does through the final chicane now through 13 and 14. See if he can improve his lap time any further. Comes down the main straight, builds up the speed, comes to cross the line, and he will remain in 6th place as well. So not many times really changing at the moment, so I think we might be close to seeing our finishing grid. So looks like once again the pole position point is going to go to Aliu. We'll see, we've still got a little bit of time for these drivers to finish their laps, but again, it's a 3/10 gap. It's not as big as what he had at Brands Hatch, but Aliu will still be pleased with that nonetheless.
Yeah, I think obviously getting the pole for the second straight week sends a message. It also adds some very important a very important championship point. But he's going to want to make it stick this time. We'll see if Pot the Brown, he's the one I think may have something for him here. And we'll see if he can put something together. We were looking at Destroyer. Destroyer I thought he had a good run for a good portion of the race last week. He's one of those guys I know that's probably sitting there back in qualifying in 6th, 7th, 8th place last couple of weeks, just saying if I get through this front pack and get a clear track, I can probably do something. And I think he could as well. I don't think that necessarily this qualifying gap is going to reflect what we're going to see in the race. With the length of the race, with what this track can do to the tires, and all that, I'm really thinking that that's not going to be reflective of what we'll see in race trim. And it looks like Pot the Brown.
Sorry, just to interrupt. Martin managed to get himself a great lap on his final run, jumps himself up to 5th place from 8th, so makes a couple of places there right at the end. So that's a good end of qualifying for him, and that is the end of our session. So it's pole once again for Alu82 in first. Little God joins him in 2nd place. He does love this circuit. Pot the Brown is in 3rd place with Spankmart in 4th. Martin heads the 3rd row in 5th with Snarling Bongo in 6th. Destroyer is in 7th place with Kovkal in 8th. Stoltz 44 is in 9th. And Porscheman rounds out our top 10 for our drivers this evening.
All right, just waiting for them to get into the garage and get us started. Looking forward to, we'll give you a ride along at some point that DJ can talk you through in the cockpit at this crazy circuit. As you said, the up and downs. When you were talking about that, DJ, it reminded me of Laguna Seca. We always tell the people, unless you've actually seen it in person, it's hard to overestimate just how steep the corkscrew is. I mean, it's like falling off of a 6-story building. It's pretty crazy. And this place, I'd say you're looking at some 30, 40 foot inclines, maybe kind of gradual, but that takes toll on the suspension of a car.
And let's be honest, looking at the corkscrew in Laguna Seca, if it's the equivalent of jumping off a 6-story building, I don't think Romain Grosjean would care one bit if he drove off one, looking at how he was going in the race.
There you go.
There you go. Right, so we get ourselves ready as everyone gets prepared. So don't forget, whilst you're here watching, to keep up with everything Flux Motorsport related, make sure that you hit the subscribe button and the bell notification icon so that you get notified of all the latest videos as they appear here on YouTube. And why not drop us a like on this video as well? We'd love it if you did. You can also follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Flux Motorsport. And don't forget that you can also join our Discord server too to keep up to date with everything going on here at Flux Motorsport. And if you want to be joining in with our racing, all you need to do is head over to our website, fluxmotorsport.com, and you can sign up there. Just take a quick little evaluation and you can get yourself on this grid in the future. So we've seen what's happened in qualifying. We're ready for another 45-minute race. Who are you calling Mystic Carling? It doesn't really work like Mystic McToasty, but we'll go with it. Mystic Carling, what's your predictions?
Well, I was totally off last week. So you might say somebody's due. Alu, it's hard to go against him with that pole. I think he's hungry. I'm going to say Alu. He took the pole last week, couldn't quite get the win. I would say that would be my call if I was a betting man.
And, who do you think will maybe spring up a bit of a surprise?
Pot the Brown's consistent, qualified well. Little guy already has started moving up. He's already up to second on the grid here in the second week. So any one of that top four is definitely somebody I wouldn't mind picking.
So here we go then as we get ourselves ready. The lights are on. And they're out for round 2 of our Touring Car Championship. That is a fantastic start from Snarling Bongo, getting himself up to third. Lil God takes the lead from Aoyu at the start and gets himself clear. Is Snarling Bongo going to go for second place down into turn 1? This will be incredible if he can manage to get the move done from where he was. He was 6th on the grid. That's an amazing jump to get himself up into third place nonetheless, but manages to tuck himself in right behind Aoyu. What a start from Snarling Bongo, and he's going up the inside now and gets second place from Aoyu. This is a fantastic opening lap. Can Aoyu hanging around the inside? He'll have the inside for the next corner, and it's all wheel banging. Queenham, and that puts Snarling Bongo out onto the gravel, and that drops him all the way down. Oh, it was a fantastic start for Snarling, but just a little bit of contact there, and he's had even more at the back. And that is a big crash, and that has really ruined the race for him on what was such a brilliant start, and just contact and contact again. Oh, I kind of feel really bad for him, because what an opening he had there.
That was wild. That was one of the best starts I've ever seen from a grid start, especially in a low-powered car. And just a little bit of rubbing right there took care of it.
And now it's a battle between Aoyu and Spankmeyer, who's got himself up into second briefly before Aoyu managed to get the position back as they're heading down to turn 10 at the end of sector 2. Aoyu running a little bit wide, but Little God is just leaving them for dust, already a second and a half ahead, and we're only 2/3 of the way through this opening lap. This has been fantastic carnage, chaos all over the place, but once again, I don't know where to keep my eyes at the moment, but we've got like a 4-car lead for a battle for second place at the moment, so this has been a wild opening lap, like you say.
Give us some noise from the pit reporter, sorry.
You're just having some fun, aren't you? So we crossed the line at the end of our first lap, and the gap has closed down a little bit, so Aoyu, now he's got clear of those battles, has closed back in on Little God. It's 8 tenths as they cross the line for the end of the first lap. It is Spankmeyer in third place, with Pop the Brown, our championship leader, sitting in 4th at the moment, and Kovkarl gets himself up into 5th place. Snarling Bongo, despite that chaos that he ended up in, getting all the way up to 2nd and then being bumped all the way down to 6th, he's back to where he actually started, in 6th place, with Destroyer in 7th. Snolls is in 8th. Martin has dropped down to 9th after qualifying 5th on the grid. I think he was involved in the carnage, and Porscheman finds himself already in the pit, so I think he was involved in that big accident as well. So carnage and chaos, but Aoyu is now pushing Little God for the lead.
Absolutely, nothing but action on the first couple of laps here. Snarling Bongo's managed to, as you said, sort himself out. Now let's just see if his times can maintain. He does have a little bit of what we call pancaking on the right-hand side of the car there, but that is not part of the nose of the car. You can do that and not affect the car aerodynamically. As long as you didn't damage any of the suspension parts or anything on the wheel, you can easily go just as fast like that. And so if he maintains a competitive lap, he might be able to get himself back up there, only 6 seconds off the lead.
Aoyu looking either way around Little God now, and suddenly it's gone from being a 1.5 second lead to being all over the back of Little God, putting pressure. Aoyu is quite used to these touring cars. This is only Little God's 2nd race in them, and already leading the way, and Aoyu is just trying any way that he can possibly look at the moment as they head to the final chicane through 13 and 14, and Aoyu just had to back out of it a little bit there, not expecting Little God to slow down maybe as much as he did as he goes down the main straight now. As we start the 3rd lap, Aoyu right in the draft of Little God. Will he pull out? Not quite managed to do it just yet, but that's kind of one of the things. It's like, just as you're about to build the speed on the back straight to maybe really be able to get the slipstream, be able to make the move, here comes a corner. So it's quite tough and quite difficult, but through that chicane there, Aoyu still just trying to maybe sneak his way, just having a little look, trying to catch Little God off guard, but Little God way too experienced for that, although they're saying that there is an opportunity for Aliu around the outside of this corner. He's hanging on in there, but he's going to get pushed wide, so I'll have to think of another move there, but Little God covered that one quite well.
I think Aliu has to be thinking about last week. We remember when he was in this position last week as he makes a move.
Inside, sorry, just to interrupt you, he's trying to make a move up the inside, doesn't quite get it pulled off there, but that is exactly what we're talking about. He's far more confident in these touring cars. He's done it a lot longer than Little God and just sniffed an opportunity, but it didn't quite pull out for him just there.
Yeah, I think last week at Brands Hatch, we saw a couple times he made that move, couldn't quite get there, locked up the tires. He may have had some brake fade towards the end of the race last week as well, and I think he learned from that and says, I've got a fast car. I think I'm faster than him. I've got 39 minutes, so I've got time to do this as long as he doesn't have somebody pressuring all over him. But I think an interesting point right now, DJ, is, as we said, the manufacturer's battle. We've got a BMW leading a Renault. There's a pack of Renaults behind them. We got one BMW up there, but wasn't Snarling Bongo in a BMW, and he was right up there, as is Destroyer. So I think this manufacturer's battle is just going to start heating up here.
It is looking really close for this lead, and I love it. And it's really, you can tell, I don't know if it's more of the fact of, obviously, you know, he realised maybe, okay, there was the odd mistake here or there last week. Let's just keep calm under the pressure and just bide the time until the opportunity comes. Like you say, there's still 38 minutes of this race still to go, so there's plenty of time to make the move. But then on the other hand, there's some times where you're thinking, he wants to get the move done already and just pull off ahead.
Yeah, you're definitely thinking, if I can make the move, I know I think I can drive away. The thing about that, like you said, is it's all a matter of risk-reward. If I'm in his position and I think I'm a couple of tenths quicker and I'll be able to pull away, as long as third place doesn't catch up to me and get, start hassling me, I won't make a risky maneuver this early. However, when that third car gets there, you might think about it.
There's a couple of battles heading down to this corner now. It's not just Lil God and Aliu in first and second, but third and fourth between Spankmeyer and Pop the Brown. Those two having a fantastic battle, reminiscent of last week at Brands Hatch when they were fighting for the lead. They're back at it again. And a little bit further back, there's a good battle between Snarling Bongo and Destroyer as well. So there's three good battles. Like you say, it's more 2x2 this week, but there's a good couple of 2x2s going on at the moment. Hurrah, I believe I should say.
Yeah, I think seeing those two BMWs running this close together tells you that if they did not, in fact, share some factory support and have a setup between them, then convergence took them to the same place, because there is nowhere on the track that either one of these seems to be quicker than the other one. They are literally running like a demonstration graphic as two cars are running nose to tail. And in that case, I think the smart thing here for Destroyer, who finished fifth last week, qualified seventh this week, is let's catch up to this group in front of us, as they're not holding each other up. I don't believe Snarling Bongo is holding Destroyer up. They're just that close to each other in speed that they're on top of each other. But I think they're just going to manage the gap. Let's try to catch fifth and move our way up there and see if we can get some more.
I think the person who's going to be sitting pretty at the moment, considering how much fighting is going on in the top 7, is Kovkal. He's the only one not in a battle at the moment, just kind of sitting there biding his time, as it's close between the front two, as Aliu just tried around the outside there of Lil God, and once again just trying that move around that's got to be turns 2 and 3, I believe. He's just having a little sniff there of an opportunity. He's getting closer and getting closer.
Oh yeah, it's BMW versus Renault right here, and I think that there's more straightaway speed. Let's see what he gets coming out of the corner, because I think the BMW is good under traction out of the corner. Not right there.
He goes wide, and Aliu has got a chance at the inside. A little bit of a rub there as Lil God just manages to hang on around the outside. It becomes the inside on the next corner. But you can really see that Little God is starting to feel the pressure now, as Aliu is all over the back of him, trying to find a way around here or there.
I don't think that's the corner.
not quite going to work out there, but maybe gets himself a little bit of a tighter line. Little God goes defensive, which means Aliu has to try a move around the outside down into turn 10. Little God is going to be able to cover the inside line, but is it going to cause him a little problem on the exit as Aliu is right on the back of him once again as they go up the hill at the end of the second sector. This is incredible fighting. Little God is withstanding this pressure quite nicely, but Aliu, oh, that was tight, that was close. Manages to avoid a contact there, but it puts him a little bit further back, and in fact right on the act of Spankmeyer is now trying to dive up the inside here of Aliu. It's going the wrong way for Aliu as he goes wide in 13. He'll give him the inside line for 14, but Spankmeyer will be able to take that straight line advantage and maybe try and get an inside line on turn 1. Suddenly it's now a three-way fight for second place because Aliu is trying to defend from Spankmeyer all the time. Pot the Brown is going to be close behind, sniffing as Spankmeyer tries to take on the inside. It's wide for Aliu. No way is Pot the Brown going to try and thread the needle. He doesn't quite do it, but Aliu does drop down to 4th place. He loses out to both Spankmeyer and Pot the Brown. Pot the Brown now has the inside, heading down to turn 4. This is incredible battling. It is robbing and racing between Spankmeyer and Pot the Brown. Is Pot the Brown going to be able to take second place? He gets through, and Spankmeyer gets the place back. Pot the Brown runs a little bit wide there. My word, this is incredible.
That was a fantastic move by Pot the Brown, and he just did not have enough. The switchback corners are throwing all these guys because you set up a good pass, and instead of descending into a similar radius or at least into a similar another right-hander or left-hander, they're having to do these switchbacks, and you lose the advantage you gain.
Oh, I think I've got to catch my breath after that. That was incredible, and they're still going nose to tail at it. So all of this at least just gives a breather for Little God, who's managed to extend the gap to almost 2 seconds now, the biggest lead he's had so far in this race. And he's got to be really thankful for that because Aliu was really putting the pressure on as it goes side by side once again. Spankmeyer is getting a little bit defensive on Pot the Brown, but Aliu is now going to jump up the inside of Pot the Brown. Can he take 3rd place off of him? Aliu gets himself back up into 3rd, but he's got himself not quite on the racing line, so he's still going to have to fight Pot the Brown for this place. Pot the Brown gets 3rd place back, and all this time it's a case of defend and attack, defend and attack. It's going this way and that way between these three, and Kovkar now starting to get a little bit racy behind. He's starting to get himself involved as well.
Yeah, he's been the smoothest one so far of just staying back out of the trouble. I think Aliu had the same thing happen that you saw last week, in that a failed move is worse at this point than waiting, because as soon as he didn't make that move stick, the 3, 4, and 5 were right on top of him. So he's got to gather himself here now.
Do you think that's maybe just something that was lingering in the back of his head of, just the odd mistakes here just made him fall away from the race lead, and just as he's sniffing and finding a way to get himself into the lead, he just made that slight mistake. Is Pot the Brown now trying to take 2nd place down into turn 4, and it's contact, and Little God has spun out of the lead. Little God has spun out of the lead of his own accord, and that means Pot the Brown has now taken the lead of this race from Spankmeyer. What happened to Little God there? Oh, I don't believe it.
I don't see any damage on the car. It looks like he's okay. He just spun it and should be able to get back in it, but devastating. He had the lead, had this race in hand. Not won by any means, but was in the position he wanted to be.
And suddenly we now have a 4-way fight for the lead, with Pot the Brown leading from Spankmeyer, Aliu, and Kovkar, who's right on the back of this. Suddenly, jackpot for Kovkar. As the action gets a little bit side by side, Spankmeyer now just a little bit of a bump there, and that is going to give Aliu a sniff on the inside. It's 3 wide down to the turn 10. My word, I can't keep up with this. As he goes for a big dive, and that's a big contact, and Aliu has gone and took himself out with a little bit of damage. That drops him down to 4th place. Kovkar gets himself up into 3rd and onto the podium after contact. Does Pot the Brown have damage? And now Spankmeyer takes the lead. That's a 3rd leader in in this same lap. Good grief, the carnage just continues here as Pot the Brown now. I don't think he's been affected too much by it, because now he's trying to take a sniff around the outside and gets himself back into first place around the outside of turn 13. A speedy inside of turn 14 will give him the lead, and Spankmeyer will take up the inside line to try and take turn 1. On the inside, they are side by side as we've reached the 1/3 stage. We'll go through the grid very shortly, but it's ever chopping and changing because of this battle up at the front. Spankmeyer tries the inside line, but Potter Brown is going to hang on to it, but he has a little bit of a slide trying to hang on that wide. He might have the inside line for turn 2. Spankmeyer can't cover it off, so Potter Brown will take the inside, gets himself back into the lead, and Kovkar now sniffing as defensive move from Spankmeyer to try and maybe tighten the line for Potter Brown into 3, round into 4, and Aliu is now going to take the outside line to take it to the inside of Kovkar and get himself back into 3rd place. This is fighting constantly. 5th and 6th, a little bit of a battle back there as well, but my word, this is just constantly changing at the front all the time here.
I have to say it's a Yanks perspective, no doubt. But we talk about in stock car racing or in Indy car racing on an oval that you're going to be on top of each other the whole race. What decides the race is when and how well you make your move. And that's exactly what it looks like here. That's why we like to say our short track racing, touring car racing is kind of, to us, it's the Euro equivalent of it, because that's exactly what these guys are doing. This race is going to be decided by who makes the cleanest move at the right time.
Potter Brown has to go defensive as Spankmeyer takes the lead from him, but Potter Brown is going to have the inside down into turn 10 as they head up the hill into turn 11. I don't know how this hasn't turned into absolute carnage yet. I just feel that with 28 minutes still to go, there may be tears for someone a little bit later down the line. But Spankmeyer tries to go a little bit defensive to block the move from Aliu. Kovkar is right on the back of Aliu, who's trying to round the outside of turn 13 and 14. Potter Brown still leading. Spankmeyer trying any way possible to get through once again, and they're not even hanging around. The thing is, they're not waiting in line to just try and build themselves up a little gap. They all want to be at the front, and you can see down this main straight, you can see the top 7 all in the same shot as Potter Brown takes the inside, gets himself back into the lead. Spankmeyer runs a little bit wide, and that gives an opportunity for Aliu to go and fight for 2nd place. It is all over the field, and as you can see in the back there, Nilgod, who spun off in the lead unchallenged, is only 5 seconds off of this battle in the lead. He's got himself caught back up already. That's
a good point, is that while this front 4 has been fighting with each other, the middle part of the pack has just come right up and caught them. They were running about 6 seconds back, maybe 10 minutes ago. Now they're all within 3-4 seconds, and that has everything to do with the hard racing going on up front.
Spankmeyer makes a little bit of a mistake there, and that gives the inside line to Aliu, but he can't quite do anything with it. Spankmeyer just manages to hold on there. Aliu is still fighting, but he's got Kovkar all over the back of him, and this is the thing that we were saying last week. As Aliu tries to go for the inside, makes a little bit of a tap, and that is both of them with contact there. Somehow they both managed to hold on to their places. Kovkar weren't able to make the most of that. Starting Bongo has picked himself up a time penalty in 5th place as well, so that's going to hamper him a little bit with such close fighting going on here. Kovkar just missing an opportunity, and these guys really, and this is what I say about it, it's going to come to tears eventually. That's the 2nd time Aliu has made contact with another driver whilst trying to make a move.
I think if I'm learning anything, besides the fact that I'm shocked that no one had any significant damage from those tire barriers flying around, the thing that I'm learning if I'm in the field with these guys right now is we have not seen a successful pass made through the technicals in the south section of the track. We have not seen one stick. We've seen guys get up beside each other. I'll pull up my map and call out the numbers, but we're looking at the little insert at the south end of the track there. Turns 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. We have not seen somebody stick that pass. The only places I think you're going to do it is at the end of the straightaways or under braking in another section.
Potter Brown goes wide on turn 1 once again, and that gives another opportunity for Spankmeyer to potentially try and get himself up into first place, with Aliu just hanging on behind in third place. I feel like I may even lose my voice. We're not even halfway through this race. We've still got another half of this to go, Carlin.
I know, and these guys, like you said, that you get the feeling that the big one's coming. The hope is that it only, harms as little as possible, as few people as possible. But as close as they are, it is not out of the realm of possibility that 3 or 4 cars get into it together, and that middle group from 5 to 7 becomes the battle for the win.
And Spankmeyer takes the lead from Potter Brown. And what were you saying about people not sticking a move around this section suddenly?
Suddenly he does it.
There is one.
There you go.
Aliu is trying to find a way through. Potter Brown goes quite defensive there to make sure that move is covered off quite quickly, and it gives an opportunity for Kovkarl. I think Lil God has managed to move around Destroyer round the back for 6th place there, and he has, so he's getting himself back in. So Lil God, despite that spin, he's not out of this. He's still working his way back up the front, and this constant fighting is only going to help him in that cause as Potter Brown goes wide, and that gives Aliu the opportunity to go into 2nd place. Kovkarl, is he missing these opportunities, or do you think he's just sitting back waiting, like you say, the big one that you just feel is starting to become a little bit inevitable at this point?
The way he was driving back in 5th when that front group was there, and he didn't seem to be pushing. He's running the same lap times as them, but he didn't seem to be pushing himself up to catch them. I think he's cruising. I think he sees what's going on. I think the last 15 minutes is when everybody really gets on it then. But I think he's just driving and sorting it out right now. He's managed to get up into 3rd. He's trying to put some distance with Potter Brown. He's now falling back to 4th, and I think you might finally start seeing some separation of cars because the different setups now are going to show themselves in terms of tire wear and how much fuel you're burning off and all that kind of thing. Not to mention the contact you've had already.
I'm wondering if maybe Potter Brown just had a slowdown penalty, because he did kind of get out of the way, and it did seem quite an easy move for Kovkarl. So I think that might have been a potential reason for that. As we do get to the halfway point, I was going to go through the grid at the 3rd way stage, but there was no point because everyone was fighting everyone and it was chopping and changing all the time. It does seem to have calmed down slightly, so why don't we try and go through that grid now? Spankmeyer is leading the way in first. He's got about a half-second lead at the moment over Aliu, who is still on his tail, still trying to find a way through. Kovkarl sits in 3rd place at the moment, with Potter Brown, our championship leader, currently in 4th place. Snarling Pongo is in 5th at the moment, but he has picked himself up a 1-second time penalty. Not too devastating, but with the close battles at the moment, could be a little bit awkward with Destroyer right on his tail in 6th. Maybe a little mistaken. There's quite some damage now for Little God in 7th, so he must have made contact with someone or something as he's fallen further back now. Martin is battling with Stoltz in 8th and 9th, and Porscheman is just running his own race after having to pit on the first lap down in 10th place. As Spankmeyer is being heavily challenged now by Aliu as we head to 11 and 12 here. So once again, the battle for the lead is changing quite quickly, quite constantly. You just can't keep your eyes off the front because there's a change almost every lap at the moment.
It's just back and forth, and it depends. As I said, here towards the last 15 minutes, I expect to see who's got the best car. We know Potter Brown had a car last week that was good in the long run. Kovkarl, he's just driving this race like somebody that I think might have something. He seems to have been saving the car, doesn't have anything banged up on it. Not a whole lot of marks on that one. But any one of these first 6 are still very much in this race. Once again, 3 and 4 all the way back to Destroyer, and we'll get a look at in his cockpit to see what he's seeing ahead of him. He's 4.5 seconds back, but as you can see, they're all right on the screen in front of him.
We do have to say it looks like maybe that damage that Little God picked up has been a bit too terminal. Little God has dropped out of this session, so he's out of it, which is a shame for our early race leader, and it looked like it was all under control until just an unforced error caused him to spin and caused this what I can only call is unmitigated chaos battle for the lead afterwards. So it's a shame after such a strong performance in Brands Hatch, an even stronger opening here at Brno. It's a bit of a shame to see that he's now no longer in the race.
Well, I think that maybe there's significant damage there, but that they thought they couldn't repair. But given that there's 10 cars in the field, I would have wanted to get those 10th place points. I would have wanted just to get that, because he's going to be a factor in the championship. I think everybody knows that, and that's a big hit. I mean, you're not going to get the finish you wanted, sure, but 10th place points would have been nice.
Indeed. There are points all through the field. All you've got to do is finish just to pick up those points, so it's definitely worth making sure that you do that. It would have been 10 points as well for 10th place, so definitely worth even finishing in last place, just across the line to pick up those points, as you say, as it looks like Alyu is now under threat from both sides, not just Kovkarl, but Pot the Brown. It's a three-way fight for second place here. Kovkarl, round the outside of both of them, jumps into second place. Pot the Brown gets himself into third, and I believe in European Formula 1 terms, or at least in my terms, we call that being zonted for Alyu.
Yeah, he lost a lot right there. You got to wonder, as we're getting late in the race, did any of the bumping and banging do anything to the car? Is it like last week? Is that car falling off on him? Is he wearing the tires down? Is he losing the balance of it? I still think he's quick. I'm not doubting that he's still got the speed to run those 209s to stay with the leaders. The question is, can he push that hard without putting the car at risk?
If anyone's wondering, by the way, Formula 1 in 2000, Belgian Grand Prix, just go and watch the Michael Schumacher, Mika Hakkinen overtake. That was Ricardo Zonta, who was in the middle, the poor guy, being overtaken from both sides, but it was an epic move, and we just saw our own version of it here in the Touring Car Championship. So an incredible battle for second, but Kovkarl, as we say, has kind of been, he's not really got himself involved in the battles, but he's just been waiting for those opportunities to open up, and it's worked out for him, because here he is now sat in second place.
He just came, like we said, from where was he at the start? He was in the middle somewhere, and he settled into fifth after the first few laps and was right behind that group. And look at him. The car has the rubber on the front. It doesn't have a scratch on it besides that. And here he is in second in a position where you're much better able to control.
Where Pot the Brown could try a move and it not work out and give Alyu the opportunity to take himself up into third place. I think I finished your sentence. I think that's what you were.
That's exactly where I was going. It's very.
There's a bump there, and that has put Pot the Brown, the championship leader, down into the gravel, and that is going to cause him a problem, because here comes Stalin Bongo to take fourth place off of him, and Destroyer fifth place as well. So Pot the Brown, after being bumped off, and that's Alyu's third hit into another driver, and that has taken Pot the Brown, our championship leader, from third place all the way down to sixth.
It's very much, like I said, the closeness of the racing reminds me, from my experience, of running like an IndyCar oval race. Maybe you're in third place and you're like, I can go to the outside and pass these guys, but if you don't make it, it's not just you don't make it and fall back in line. If you don't make it, you might lose 2, 3, 4 positions.
It is really tight between, like, I've called a lot of Flux races now. I've done quite a few of them. I don't think I've ever seen a situation where, with a quarter of an hour to go at 2/3 stage, realistically there's a chance for any of the top 6 to still win it.
And if they get any closer, there's actually a stretch chance of all 6 piling into the corner together, causing a huge accident, and then 7th and 8th might be able to catch up. You never know with the way that they're driving on each other. I mean, it's expected in touring car racing. Bumping and grinding is part of the racing experience in a car like this. We have not seen a huge accident yet at this point. Little God's damage being the worst, but as you said, these corners are so tight, and the straightaway seems to end right as you're building up your speed, that you have to make a risky move at this point if you're going to gain positions without the guy giving it to you in front by making a mistake.
Let's look at that battle that we've been talking about a little bit earlier between Destroyer and Snarling Bongo. We've mentioned it a little bit earlier of these two have been nose to tail virtually the whole race, but because of all the carnage up front, we've not really had a chance to take a look at it. But still, even at this point, they're really close, and obviously now we've popped the Brown right behind them. That's another thing to look out for as well.
I would say in that position, what you're looking at right there, guys, at this point early in the season, you still have a chance at winning this race. You still have a chance at the podium. But you're looking at Destroyer, who finished 5th last week. Pot the Brown was, of course, a race winner. You just want to keep yourself in it here in the early parts of this race. I would not be throwing it around too much over these last 15 minutes if I was in their group, because if you're going to close that gap at this point, those guys in front of you, they got to start getting into it with each other and maybe have their own problems. I don't think it's worth risking a top 5 to maybe catch the last 3 when, as we just mentioned, if Destroyer makes the move and misses, he's definitely fallen at least back to 6th.
We've got 14 minutes left on the clock, so we're into the final third of the race. Spankmeyer is leading the way in first place at the moment. Kopfkarl is in second, but under pressure from Aliu, who is in third, who's been showing everyone how you actually drive a touring car around this circuit. And still piling on the pressure, trying up the inside, not quite making a move there. Fourth place, it's Snarling Bongo, just holding off Destroyer in 5th. But remember, Snarling Bongo does have a time penalty, whereas Destroyer doesn't. So long as he stays within that second of Snarling, he will take the 4th place. I'll swap round. Pot the Brown, our championship leader, after that bump from Aliu, is down in 6th place. A little bit further back, there is a battle between Stoltz and Martin 65. They're in 7th and 8th place. They've been pretty nose to tail for quite a while now. Porschman still running in 9th place, finds himself obviously a lap down after being taken out in the lap 1 incident. So Kopfkarl is actually down into 3rd place. We just missed it. Aliu has got himself back up into 2nd place, but like you say, it's been a story of 2 halves really for Aliu. Fantastic battles, fantastic pressure being put on, and then just other times just going a little bit over the edge.
I think some of these and obviously not in the cockpit as he is. This is a tough track, and you kind of have to make things happen to some extent. But a lot of the little mistakes that we've seen while making a pass attempt that gets people on him, and this goes back to last week, is he came real far to the inside, a real sharp corner. And it's a little bit, maybe not late, but a little bit later in the braking zone. And so the car that he's trying to pass is already committed to the apex. And from his seat, the guy chops his nose off. But from the guy in front seat, when I'm the car in the lead, I would say to myself, I never saw the nose of your car pull up beside me. So that's my line. I don't have to give you a line if I don't see you, and that's kind of what I think. I think Aliu's locking up the brakes coming hard on the inside like that. He's trying to make the pass under braking. Now, if that's because he doesn't think the car has the potential to do it off the corner, I don't know. But he's running, he's been running fastest laps of the race and right with the fastest laps of the race when he doesn't have pressure under him.
He does still have the fastest lap of the race at the moment, a 2-minute 8 flat. Gives himself the extra bonus point for that as well, so not just pole position. So we know that he's fast, he's flat out as Snarling Bongo slips it up a little bit, and that's giving Destroyer a chance to sniff up the inside here as we head down to turn 10, maybe giving himself an opportunity to get 4th place outright off of Snarling Bongo. Not quite managed to get it there, but goes for a dive up the inside. Like I say, this is brave move to try something like that, but like I said, it's 4th outright now. Destroyer gets the move done, but Snarling Bongo is going to have the inside for 11 and 12. Destroyer just hangs it around the outside, which becomes the inside for him, but Snarling is going to hold on for it on the outside as well. So they're still fighting, and this is the danger that Destroyer has. He doesn't need to be doing this battle, but if it gives him the opportunity to maybe try and catch the top 3, it is worth it if he can pull it off safely. As he goes around the outside now of turn 14, at the end of the lap, he goes back into the slipstream to maybe try down into turn 1 at the end of this lap as we reach 10 minutes left of this race. It's that gamble, like you say, with someone that's got a penalty, as you are running right behind him, nose to tail, you're still going to have 4th anyway because of the time penalty, but at the same time, you've got to try and get that opportunity if it presents itself to you, if it gives you a potential podium chance.
Yeah, if you have the chance to make the move, make it. And I think he did. I was going to say, Destroyer did what I think the guys up front should have been doing, making that pass in that turn, that big sweeping right-hander. That was the place to make the move. He got right up on him and then accelerated out of the corner. The only thing that prevented it from sticking was right after the second timing marker there in the southwest corner of the track, is that it's another switchback turn. It going back to the left instead of the right. If that turn's going back to the right, Destroyer sticks that turn, or sticks that pass. The problem is that with all the switchbacks, I think he made the right move at the right place, but you just don't have, they're both in BMWs. He doesn't have more motor. He can't pull it off and get by him. And so, as you said, not a whole lot of risk. He may fall back to 6th, but you got to take the chance if it presents itself.
To come down now to that corner where he tried to make the move last time, down at turn 10, a little bit further back this time, maybe just pacing himself. Of course, like you say, just needs to stay within that second, but runs a little bit wide through turn 10 actually, so it's that balance, because yes, Snarling One Go Ahead has a time penalty, but it's only a second, so it's not that much of a disadvantage to him. So long as he doesn't have him right on his tail like he does at the moment, Snarling could still hold on for this 4th place as it gets quite close up the front again, just half a second now. Aliu all over the back of Spankmeyer. This one isn't finished yet. Aliu, who's been all over the place, now trying to fight for that race lead. Off the top of my head, I don't think he's actually had the race lead. I might be wrong, but for the most part, he's been chasing it. But now we're getting into that point, final 8 minutes of the race, where you've really got to make that move if you're fighting for the win.
If he had the race lead, he may not have had it officially. He's been in the front, but he may not have had the lead officially, because I don't know if he ever crossed the start-finish line in the lead with everything swapping back and forth. But that last lap, he was a second quicker than Spankmeyer. Now, Spankmeyer saving the car. I know one of my strategies when I'm in a lead of a couple seconds and a guy's coming is he's going to get here, so I'm going to save tires and let him get here so I have something to race him with. So maybe Spankmeyer's doing some of that, but Aliu is the quickest car on the track right now by a significant amount, and he's coming.
At 2 minute 8, just 7/10 off of his fastest lap and the fastest lap of the race so far. Spankmeyer, most drivers have been hanging around those 2 minutes 9 for a race pace, so it's been quite tight. But Aliu now all over the back of Spankmeyer once again. 7 minutes left of this race. It's kind of come down to a two-way fight now. Kopkal just hanging back once again. I don't think he's got the pace to be able to go for it. Spankmeyer, a little bit of a mistake possibly, I don't know, but heading down to turn 10, Aliu, we've seen him try a dive bomb from this distance before. He's not going to do it this time around. He's just pacing himself, just trying to sniff out the best opportunities, because we've seen you can go for the move, but these corners are so long and so sweeping that the side-by-side allows the person who's being overtaken an opportunity to fight back pretty quickly. So he wants to find the best decisive place that he can get that final move done and just get himself in the lead for absolute certain, as he falls a little bit back at the moment now, but just pacing himself ready for another attack. With 6 minutes left on the clock, it could go either way still.
I think that in that situation, coming through 11 and 12 right there, that's a mistake. He sniffed it out going in there, but with the switchback, there's just, if you don't exit onto the long straightaway well, and he had to take sort of a clipped line, he fell back 0.6 of a second right there. It just seems that whole 11 and 12 section is not the place to pass. Aliu's that's had his number a couple times here today, but I think he's the fastest car on the track, and all he has to do, if he gets in front of Spankmeyer, I think he's going to pull away.
This Destroyer is all over the back of Snarling once again, been looking to try and maybe find another place to try and make the move. It's looking really difficult once again. I noticed Snarling is sliding quite a bit out of a couple of these corners, which is giving Destroyer this opportunity. And when you're that guy chasing, and you can see that the guy in front is making these mistakes, and you think, here's an opportunity, but you can't quite put it off. How frustrating is it the more that keeps happening? That you think, there's the opportunity, but you just can't quite make it stick.
Well, it depends, because you're riding behind him and you're looking for his mistake, but you're also thinking of where you want to make your move. Now, when those two things line up at the same, serendipitously, the world's a beautiful place. The thing is, he might make the mistake in a place that you're not ready to jump on it, or you don't feel comfortable making the move there, and then all it succeeds in doing is closing you up. I think it's less about, do you have to make the pass right as they make the mistake, or do you see him make the mistake that puts you on his bumper and you go, I can get him on that next corner, now's the time.
They head up then to turns 11 and 12 out in front. Alyu is now all over the back once again, just 3 tenths behind Spankmeyer, still trying to find any way that he possibly can around Spankmeyer. Just can't quite get it done though, as they exit through 13 and 14 and down to start another lap with 3 minutes and 50 left on the clock. This looks like it's going to be the penultimate lap of the race, so 2 more laps now to try and get it done. Spankmeyer's pace has come back up to a 2-minute 9 flat, 2-minute 8.8 though for Alyu in second place, so he's still pushing, still trying to find that way through. It is really close with just 3.5 minutes left.
See, both of these guys were on the podium last week. They're barring disaster, they both could be on the podium this week, but you're looking at 2 guys who were in that 3-way battle. They obviously watched our broadcast of the Brands Hatch round 1, during the week, and maybe got the impression that, hey, we lost that 3-way duel for the win. All 3 of them raced great. It could have been any one of them that won, but circumstances fell Pot the Brown's way. So both of them want the win. If Pot the Brown was one of these 2, he wants to win as bad as anybody to get a second one, but he might be saying, I got one last week. First and second will give me a big points lead. These 2, I think, both want to prove it.
I have to interrupt you here. That battle down in 5th place has gone dramatic. Spankmeyer and Destroyer have collided and they've hit into the wall. It was looking also good for Destroyer. Snarling made another mistake which gave Destroyer the opportunity to get himself up in front, but it didn't work out. He went around the outside. Snarling was still just on the inside, came across. They both hit each other, and that has given Pot the Brown the opportunity to get himself up into 4th place. Destroyer does get himself ahead, and effectively is net neutral because he's still in 5th place ahead of Snarling, but now that opportunity for 4th that was right in front of him has gone.
That's not surprised to see that as close as they were, and also not surprised to see that was in turn 10, I believe. We've seen a lot of side. That's one of the best places to try to make a move, but it just hasn't worked coming into that section.
Turn 5, I'm being told.
5, I'm sorry. Turn 5. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm looking at the map upside down. Either way, it was in a wide sweeper, and they went down in there, and I just don't think. I'm imagining that they got locked together. The way that they were stuck on the wall, they looked like they got locked together.
It was pretty much Destroyer went around the inside, around the outside. Snarling was still just had a little bit of his nose left, and it just took both of them towards that inside wall. We head to the final lap then of this race. Just a minute left to go, so this will be their last time around. Spankmeyer holding a 6 tenths lead over Alyu. Looks like maybe he's been able to fend this off. So long as he keeps it on the track, doesn't make any mistakes, it looks like job done for Spankmeyer, and that race win that just went awry for him last week out in Brands Hatch is going to come good for him this time around.
He can hold on to it. You can't make a mistake through this section. Alyu's going to be very aggressive all the way through. Spankmeyer, as we said before, he is a previous winner, has 1 previous career win in the Flux Touring Car Championship, as does Alyu, to be honest. They're both, either one of them would be getting their 2nd career win here, and right now he's coming.
Aliu trying on the inside line. That will give him a little less speed down onto this straight down into turn 10. And we've seen Aliu has done dive bombs here before. It's the final lap. Will he attempt one now? He's too far back to try it. And there's only the 2 chicanes up the hill as they head into the final sector then. The time is about to run out. So this is it, the final sector. 2 opportunities realistically for Aliu. He's going to try around the outside to give himself a little bit more speed. It's not quite worked out there as they climb up the hill for the final chicane. It's one last opportunity for Aliu. It's got to be a dive bomb from out of nowhere if he's going to get it done at this rate. It looks like it's not going to work out for him. Spankmeyer has managed to hold off here. It looks quite close. Aliu has been all over the place in the wars. It's not going to quite work out for him, but is it? Spankmeyer has to defend as they go down to the line. How close was that? It is Spankmeyer from Aliu for first and second place. Fantastic from them. Kovkau is going to be really happy and content with a podium in third place. Pot the Brown, it was a little bit difficult. He was fighting for that lead. Got a little bit of a bump from Aliu earlier, which dropped him all the way down to the back, but gets himself back up into fourth. Destroyer will keep himself ahead of Snarling Bongo for fifth. Snarling in sixth place. Stoles is kind of just by himself now in seventh place, so he'll cross the line for those points and comes through these final 2 corners to get himself into that 7th place. Been fighting with Martin for most of this race, so it looks like maybe Martin just had a little bit of a mistake which dropped him down a good 13 seconds or so as he drifts it out of turn 13. He's putting on a show for us. Finishes in 8th place, and that is Porsche just crossing the line, lap down in 9th place, and that will be a nice little spin there from Martin, really showing off to cross the line. And that was your race results then. So it's a win for Spankmeyer by just 1/10 from Aliu. How close was that, Aliu, in the wars today? Kovkau will be very happy with that 3rd place. Took his opportunities as they came. Pot the Brown drops down to 4th place. I don't know if he'll be content with that or a little bit annoyed with what happened. Destroyer finishes in 5th place with Snarling Bungo in 6th. Stoss finishes in 7th. It's 8th for Martin. Porsche is in 9th place. Well, what can we say about that race? That was chaotic. It was absolutely mental.
That was one of the best races you'll ever see. Those cars were right on top of each other. You always got to give the top props to the winner. Spankmeyer gets his 2nd career Flux Touring Car Championship win. Obviously, credit to Cobb Carl for coming up through the field. Pot the Brown also for recovering to get in the top 4. But I think Aliu, as much as he ping-ponged around, what a drive he had. Because he had several times that it could have got away from him completely, and he drove his way all the way back up and really had the fastest car on the track at the end. Just a great battle. Him and Spankmeyer both on the podium for the 2nd straight week.
It's a fantastic result for all of them as well. So, do you want more action? Well, you only got to stick around for Flux Motorsport on YouTube and you'll be able to see more. Carling, he's all over these kind of things. What have we got coming up?
Let's see. What is it? Thursday today. Tomorrow night is Friday. The IndyCar Championship at 8 p.m. Eastern, 1 a.m. UK on the American Tour. The IndyCars will be at Willow Springs in the Death Valley Desert tomorrow for round 2 of the IndyCar Championship. And then on Saturday, hear
the groans from the drivers already.
I actually love that track. Absolutely love it. Saturday, we of course have the doubleheader, the Flux American Sports Car Championship, GTE, 7 p.m. Eastern, midnight UK. LMP2s, 8:30 p.m. Eastern, 1:30 UK. Spots are available in those races from what I understand. And then, of course, Sunday, 8 p.m. Australian time, the Flux V8 Supercars Championship. So, Redders, as always, a pleasure. Bring us home, man.
It's been fantastic. Next week here in the Touring Cars, it's going to be Watkins Glen Short. I won't be with you. I'm getting a well-earned holiday because, after 2 weeks of work here at Flux, I deserve it, So I'm sure Carling will be looking after you and maybe someone else as well. But make sure you tune in for that. It's going to be another fantastic race. And don't forget what you're here watching to keep up to date with everything Flux Motorsport related. Make sure you hit that subscribe button and the bell notification icon so that you get notified of all of the latest videos as they appear here on YouTube. Drop a like on this one. I think we deserved it. What a race we gave you. You can also follow us on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram at Flux Motorsport. And don't forget that you can also join our Discord server to keep up to date with everything going on here at Flux Motorsport. If you want to be joining in on this crazy action, all you need to do is head to fluxmotorsport.com and you can sign up there. And after a quick little evaluation drive, you'll be able to join in one of our many championships. Thank you, Carlin, for joining me once again. I've been Redders, and next week it's going to be a lot more fun in the Touring Car Championship from Flux Motorsport. Until then, it's bye for now.